Hey guys, today's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. Um, and I figured I'd hop on and make a little Valentine's Day video. And I figured it should be on the topic of love or something love related. And I decided to make a video about polyamory. I'm just gonna talk about it a little. I guess I'll really just talk about my experience and how I would do polyamory for myself. This is not everybody's experience. Polyamory is a very wide spectrum for different people. I don't really know how to cover those other spectrums as well. Because I don't do much research on it about those things. Like I just don't want to be talking about something that I'm not completely, knowing and be telling y'all that. So I'll just tell y'all my experience with it. As you may or may not know, I am polyamorous. I haven't said that on the channel before, I don't think. Actually, I might have, but that's what this flag over here means. It was my first LGBT flag that I got at a pride parade. And, I don't know. I will say, with the privilege I have, I am middle class, I am white, I do have a certain amount of privilege when it comes to, being able to identify a certain way, especially since I have a more accepting family than most other people do. That being said, out of all of the, gender sexuality, I think polyamory was the kind of hardest thing for me to, I guess, realize, not necessarily come to terms with, but because I did feel that way where it's like, I do like multiple people. Like, I have the capacity to love multiple people. Even if I'm in a relationship with someone, I might feel flirtatious towards another person. And obviously, there's a difference between that and cheating, which I'm going to get into later. If you don't really know what polyamory is, I would educate yourself about it besides this video, but I'm just getting into my experience with it. But it was one of the things I most struggled with because, whereas this generation has more open mind, and especially at the school I went to and stuff and the friends I had, I just attracted, the LGBT friends. So it was a kind of little tiny safe space for me. You can't really talk about things like that much in school because there's still a lot of bigotry and stuff going on. But I sort of had a good environment and friends and stuff that I was able to figure out my sexuality and my gender identity pretty early on. And I'll say that my gender identity has changed a lot. And since when I first knew about gender identity, and my view on it has changed a lot. But polyamory was probably the hardest thing to come to terms with, or not come to terms with, but to realize and integrate, because not only is ethical polyamory really hard to, not everybody realizes how hard it is to actually be ethical about it and how much effort and and rules and boundaries that goes into that. I didn't know that when I first went into it. I was young. I was only 13, I think, when I realized that I was poly. And another thing about it was I was in a monogamous relationship at the time when I realized I was poly, and the other person is monogamous. So me telling them that, hey, I might be poly, and then being like, okay, I guess I could try being open to that, and it was kind of hard because that was originally a monogamous relationship. And who knows whether or not that person, was genuinely okay with that or just didn't know how to react, had never heard of that before. So that was definitely something that was weird about it at first, was feeling a little bit guilty because of being afraid of my partner's feelings about it and not wanting to make them feel awkward. And granted, that was some of my own boundaries with myself that I just needed to be more confident in my partner and myself. I was only 13, bro. let's real quick. I was only 13, so but those were some things I was worried about. I was definitely feeling like I don't want to be guilty of, I don't want to I feel guilty because I don't want to like make them feel weird or make them feel weird. Or I guess I also sort of had the mindset then that like you don't you don't very often hear about non-monogamy or polyamory, and I only knew so much about it then that I was still kind of like, does this sound like cheating? Does this even sound right? Like, am I being weird for this? And it's gotten better now. There's definitely a lot more, even just the past few years, there's a lot more of a platform for polyamory and spreading information, real and non misinformation about that. But I was only 13, bro. I only knew a little bit, but it was hard because I was in a monogamous relationship at the time, and I was so young, I didn't quite understand fully. I didn't really do my research as I should have done on how to make it ethical. I just sort of assumed I could do it on my own, which wasn't a very good idea. I did end up putting myself into a situation where like it was, and it's so bad. I hate thinking about these things now because it was so hard for me to go through. But I had, I had a, I was still in that monogamous relationship, and they agreed with me to like try out that because it was long distance, and they were like, okay, we talked about it, and we basically set up the boundary. You just tell me about if you have someone come into your life, just let me know. And that's pretty much how it was. Like, we have our own relationship. And if you meet someone else you like, we'll just talk to each other about it and we'll let each other know and we'll figure it out from there. And so we had agreed upon that. I had started seeing, I'd put it like my feelers out. I had started like talking to a couple different people while in that relationship. Um, there's a lot of reasons, and there was a lot of things outside of the fact that it was polyamory of why things went wrong. But basically, when it comes down to it, those people, it might have been that I didn't inform them well enough. It might have been that they just thought I was lying about the polyamory. Maybe I just didn't set the boundary well enough. Like, this is what this means. These are the relationships I was in. I definitely didn't. I definitely wasn't explicit enough about like these. Well, actually, I kind of was. Bear with me. I'm sorry. I'm kind of all over the place. Just thinking about this is so hard for me. But it came down to like those people I was in a relationship with, poly relationship. I had like two people, and then I had that like main person who I had started the monogamous relationship with, and then we agreed on a poly situation. That person who I was in a monogamous relationship with decided they weren't comfortable with poly relationships at all. These other two people decided they weren't comfortable with poly relationships at all, wanted me to choose. This person just wanted to break up with me. And I think that was a huge learning lesson because not only did I was explicit, but I wasn't prepared for these people to be like, oh, like actual polyamory, like you're actually gonna have other people in your life besides me, and to like see them be jealous like that. Like, I will never understand jealousy because in my opinion, it's like if I see someone I like enjoying themselves with another person, I feel happy for them. I'm like, oh yeah, get it, yeah. Like, that's just me though. But I just wasn't, it was like I was young too, so I didn't fully understand that like people aren't going to be as accepting and understanding of that as I am. And I didn't, I guess I did try my best to explain it, but I guess I didn't explain it enough to those people. And there's only so much I could have done. In the end, some of it was just a case they tried it out and it wasn't for them. Some of it was just like them should have having known better. They should have listened to what I told them instead of just assuming it would be a different way. And then some of it was just me like needing to be clear about what polyamory is for me, what relationships I'm already in, what boundaries I need to set down, what if I'm in this relationship with you, that also means I'm going to be doing these things with this person. Like, I just, with polyamory, to make it as ethical as possible, you need to be as open about all the rules, about all the boundaries, all the things that you're comfortable with, all the things that the other person is comfortable with, as open as possible. Because you don't want to get down the line and realize there's just something that isn't compatible. Realize just like, oh, wait, like, you like this way, and I like this way, and it just isn't working no matter what we do. So that is definitely something that's also really hard, and I will say that that is another reason that polyamory has been such a much bigger thing to grapple with on my sexuality journey than just my sexuality or my gender was. But yeah, I guess I just want to talk about that because I just want to talk about how easy it is for it to become non-ethical or for there to be miscommunications, because when just one relationship, it's easy to overstep boundaries, miscommunicate. But when you have poly, it's like you can have any number of relationships. Even just getting past 2 and getting into the 3 people range, it's a lot. For me, some people have polyamory to where like everyone is together, like this person, and this, they're like all loving each other. For me at that time, that one actually poly relationship I had was, I had one specific relationship with one person, and then I had one specific relationship with another person, and they weren't related at all. I just let both of them know about that. And then I had another person I was kind of talking to, but wasn't quite sure about yet, and that was that other person. But I just wanted to say that because I don't want you to think there's only one way of polyamory. Some of you might already know that, but that's how I had that specific relationship. I haven't had a poly relationship beside that, and I'm not saying that's the only way I would do poly relationships. I'm just saying that's what that specific situation was like for me. And that worked for me at the time when I thought that everybody was informed, everybody was cool with everything that was going on. And then, of course, it was no longer okay once people started like being comfortable or not being okay with it. Obviously, that's not okay, and I don't want that for anybody I'm in a relationship with. Even with all those hardships I just talked about, having the label. Let me move somewhere with better lighting. Having the label of polyamory is just such a liberating thing for me. And I don't know what I would have done if I never knew polyamory, but it's basically like having that label it's how I actually feel. Like I actually do feel a capacity to love multiple people. And part of the reason I don't feel comfortable with monogamous relationships is because those are all my shoes back there. If you're wondering what that blob is, that's all my shoes. Part of the reason I don't feel comfortable with monogamous relationship is because I have I don't want to be like I don't want to have to be someone's everything, or I don't want to make someone else feel like they have to be my everything. Let's say, for example, I had a partner who was bisexual, and I'm demisexual. So that means I only feel comfortable engaging in sexual activity with someone who I'm very, very comfortable with and I'm very deeply emotionally connected to, and I've had a long relationship for them for a while. So I would be happy to have romantic interactions with them and have that relationship with them and be there to support them, but I wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable engaging in sexual activity with them, whereas they might be all for it. They might be like, anytime, I'm cool. And so I wouldn't want to place the burden on them to where they'd have to dim down their sexual appetite or something like that, or compromise in some way just because I don't want to have sex with them.